And we're live! He says,
see ya,
waiting
everybody.
for the clapping.
There we go.
All right, welcome to the Crafty Boys, where there's only two of us this week. I don't know where the other ones are.
Well, I think Dave is dead. Didn't he say that? Didn't he text us to say he was dead?
Yeah, he did. He did actually say,
what were you
"Hi,
trying to say?
I'm dead," and that was it. So, unfortunately, that just leaves myself and unfortunately, whatever.
It's okay.
We're the best.
You could say it.
We're the ones. Yeah,
everybody's
we rule.
thinking
They
it.
suck.
You can say it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this week, since a couple of people aren't here, we don't have the same beer, and I have a beer. Alan has a beer, and they're completely different beer. So this week, why don't we start with your beer, Alan, because you just recently picked it up. What did you get?
All right, so it's October, which means it's fresh hop season. So a lot of breweries, what they do is they pick their hops or they get their hops fresh from the farm, and they immediately throw them in the brew. And one of the more popular ones that comes out of the Victoria area is from Driftwood Brewing. It is called their Sartori Harvest IPA.
Nice.
Now, this thing clocks in as 7%. I don't know what the IBU rating is because I am just unprepared. So, Shane, maybe through the magic of the internet, you can look it up and tell me.
Well,
I'm going to
let me look it up here.
Look at that. Oh, that is just gorgeous. Now, the Sartori Harvest IPA, they go with the same hops every year from a farm called the Sartori Farm, which I believe is in the interior. And they use these in this particular beer. They come out in October. They're a hot seller. They go really, really fast. So if you get a chance to get your hands on one, do it. Get it now because it won't be there. I would bet it's all going to be gone within a couple weeks if it isn't gone already. So that's what it looks like in the glass. And let's
see. It's got a nice color to it. Nobody seems to know. It's not on their website, and no one else seems to know what the International Beer Unit rating is on this beer. But what is your guess? What would you guess for this one?
I'm going to guess that it's probably in the mid 30 to low 40 range. Okay. Somewhere in there. It doesn't have quite the bite of, say, a Fat Tug, right. But it's got a more fresh flavor with a Sartori Harvest IPA. Now, the interesting thing about these fresh hot beers, and not just Sartori Harvest, but all of them, they encourage you to drink them, as quickly as you can. The longer you hold it in your possession, whatever, in your house, the
longer
the more the
cellar,
flavors
the worse it
kind of
gets.
get weak. God, I can't speak tonight.
Well,
you're encouraged to drink
that's because you probably had a stroke.
Well, there's that.
This week's beer for me is a beer that comes from Vancouver. It is from Steamworks, and it is called Halo. It is a hazy light IPA, and it only comes in at like 3.9% alcohol by volume. Not actually, wait a second. Oh, it has a 35 IBU rating, which is interesting. So basically, this beer is one of the ones that I sent to Locke. So hopefully he won't hate me because I just realized I didn't look at the alcohol by volume setting. Oh my god! Look at the head on that. Look at that. Oh my god.
That's all head. I mean that's a bad pour, is what that is.
That is a bad pour, but it is actually no, it's not a bad pour. I'm pouring properly here, and that is happening. This is.
But you're also pouring into mason jars. I wonder if that makes a difference.
Possibly. You never know. I'm gonna let that sit for a sec. But essentially, this beer, it smells amazing, by the way, and but it does have a very light color, like incredibly so, like sort of a lemon, sort of bit of
Did you say
orange
that it's
tinge to it.
filtered or not filtered?
No, it's hazy, so it's not really filtered at
Oh,
all.
right, of
So
course.
so basically, God, this, wow, that is just, that head
This is
is
called
dynamite.
This is called us wasting time while Shane's head goes down a little bit. We're trying to buy time.
Lol. Well, actually, let me taste this beer so I can catch up to you. Your beer is over here, Peanut Gallery. Here, take it. It's effervescent as hell. So there you go. It smells really really good though.
I actually was reading up on that beer, and it is supposed
Ooh.
to be sort of like a very fizzy kind of effervescent beverage.
I do like it. That is, oh my gosh, that's yep. I give this one a thumbs up because that is tasty. But I also want to raise this glass now that we've got our beers open
Okay.
to JR. JR the Bird died last week during our last podcast.
Oh,
We were streaming live and my bird was dead on the bottom of its cage. So to JR, who I believe, if memory serves, was probably 26-ish, which is actually quite old for a bird, for that bird, and he is now gone, which means that since 1994, when my friend Todd requested that I take a bird from the Red Barn Market because it was being abused by the other birds, Picard, I'm speaking of course, who passed away 5 or 6 years ago. I now am birdless. No more birds. I'm done with birds. They're all gone. I've taken care of the birds to the best of my ability, and they've all died of old age. So, here's to JR.
you've done your part for King and Country.
Yeah, it was kind of bizarre because I was talking to him before the show last week. I was at his cage, blabbering away at him. He was blabbering away at me. Seemed quite happy. I came here.
He's probably
hung out
telling
with
you
you
that
and
he had
Locke.
like arrhythmia or something.
I'm dying. Don't you understand? Take me to the vet. But and so I went back and I was gonna cover him up for the night. I'm like, okay, good night, JR. But I'm like, where's JR? Oh, he's sitting on the bottom, which is not unusual for birds. Sometimes they go and sit on the bottom of the cage, just kind of hang out. And I'm like, okay, JR, I'm putting you to bed. And then he didn't move when I got close to his cage, which is very unusual for him. So I thought, okay, open the cage, and I'm like, JR, and I pick him up, and he's like already, getting all stiff and stuff. And I'm like, oh, wow, that happened fast. So JR has left the world.
Maybe he's pining for the fjords.
That's exactly what some people here said. So he, so and here's the thing. So he died, and then I thought, okay, well, how long do these birds live? And I'm looking at all the captivity things of how, and it's sort of 20 to 30 years. And I thought, wow. And then the Peanut Gallery said, yeah, it says here the oldest recorded bird is like 36. And I'm like, I know that Picard was 41. When I got him, he actually had his tag that had his hatch date on it. He was 41. I'm like, God damn it, Guinness. How dare you? So anyway, unfortunately, I have no way to provide them documentation since,
So you've missed out on all those millions that would come from that.
Totally. A bald bird that lasted 40 odd years. Come on.
You probably could have gotten a contract.
Hand over fist.
Gotten a deal with like
money
Budweiser
from heaven. That's true. Hey, Budweiser, I'd like to do a collaboration of my dead bird. His name was Picard, and he had no feathers on his head, and but he was kind of a dick too. So But anyway, So yeah, so there we go. That's the big news, and of course, other big news this week is the water shortage on the
Everywhere?
Sunshine Coast. Huh?
Everywhere, you mean?
Well, everywhere, but specifically the Sunshine Coast, which only has water to last until mid-November, unless it rains, of course. But that means that Persephone Brewing is not allowed to brew, and they can't water their hop farm. So I don't know. I'm assuming it's supposed to rain in a couple of days, so I'm hoping that that rain sort of saves the day.
I
But
would kind of
yeah,
think that they would have some sort of exception for farms. I mean, it's one thing to have like a water shortage, but you don't want to wipe out all your crops either, right? I mean,
uh,
that's stupid.
well, yes, but the problem is they are so low on water that it's basically we have enough for drinking for like 4 weeks. So fuck farmers, sorry, but you can't. So yeah, it's pretty bad. Like it, they declared like an emergency the other day, and the Persephone Brewing guy was on there on the news going, "They've had 7 years to fix this problem. They've done dick." He was far more eloquent than I was, but essentially, yeah, they apparently knew this was coming. Granted, I remember when it's how long it took for Victoria to put a new level on their dam. I don't know, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, but it took the the previous 20 to get that to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Well, it's crazy. It's
I
like
miss.
it's late or yeah, late November or not November, late October,
Yeah.
and I took the dog out and I put on a pair of pants and I regretted doing it because it was so freaking hot. Like,
Yeah, same here. I mean, I went outside earlier today to walk the dog, same sort of thing. Like it was 4, in the afternoon. It should have been coldish at this time of year.
yeah,
No,
no,
it's still summer. So and yeah, a lot of the trees actually. I don't know if in your neighborhood, but definitely here, like the trees are wilting and not
yes,
looking very happy about it.
yep. The other night,
So
it was
yeah.
so hot when I was trying to sleep, like I was sweating in bed, and I had to, turn on the fan
Oh yeah,
in
actually,
late
you did that last
October. Like,
week a
what am
couple
I
times.
doing? Late October, and I'm turning on the fan.
But but global warming is not a thing. It doesn't exist. It's not happening. It's
Well,
not
okay.
happening.
So I was on. So I listened to 100.3 The Q, which is a local radio station, and
Right.
on the morning show with Ed Bain and the news guy Cliff LeCane, they were saying that although this is really unseasonable, we're not breaking any records.
No.
Apparently, the fall of 1962 was very similar to this.
Oh,
So that was 60 years ago.
that's kind of well. Hey, hopefully we won't break any records of any kind anytime soon. In
So rain is supposed to come. Well, it's supposed to start raining tomorrow, but not much. The real rain's going to come on Friday.
yeah, that's what I heard. That's kind of what I'm hoping will save. Will save. I'm speaking like the Sunshine Coast is going to fall into the ocean tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, what's really funny is my first reaction was, "Oh, that really sucks. That's terrible." I hope that they, pull through. And then the brewery news is like, yeah, the two breweries or whatever that are there, one of them being Persephone, will not be allowed to make beer right now because it will take too much water. And I was like, no, and that was where I'm like, oh my god, I've got to pay attention to the story. This is terrible. So yeah, it's kind of dumb.
Yeah,
But hey,
it is kind of dumb.
I was concerned. I'm very concerned that
So we're supposed to get rain like all next week. Like, I think quite a bit of it.
yeah, I'm just pulling up the weather forecast here. BC, let's
which
see.
which is
What
good. in
Oh
some ways.
wow!
In some
It's
other
supposed
ways, it
to
kind of
start
sucks.
raining tomorrow. Friday is more so. My God, all the way until wow.
Next Friday
So we're
or
gonna
something.
get dumped. Oh, and of course the winter weather is coming too. Apparently, the prairies are already getting into the sort of coldness. Some business partners of mine are up in the Yukon in Whitehorse right now, and they are they apparently got like 6 inches of snow the other day.
What,
So
Whitehorse in October getting
I'm
snow?
so
No.
weird. So yeah, I mean it's yeah, it's going to
I mean,
be
is that not a
kind of cool.
seasonal thing up there for them to get snow at this time of year?
Um, probably. I don't know. Actually,
I
it's kind of
remember
funny.
reading stories about Edmonton getting snow like the first week of school, early September. So you would think,
Yeah, well, that's Edmonton.
I know, right?
What can you do?
Edmonton,
Edmonton, bunch of Edmontonites.
Woolerton.
Oh, this beer is great.
What else is going on, Shane? Normally, Locke would
Um,
like talk a blue streak on this thing here, and
well, I know. I mean, this is kind of it. So, good night, everyone. No, well, actually, there is a bit more beer news. I did actually find some articles about this just a couple days ago. I will tell you what they are. And CanadianBeerNews.com, one of my favorite beer news sources. Um, the actually, this is the article right here. Nope, that's not it. Hang on, hang on. There's a new brewery in. I'm going to put this in the back channel for you. There's a new brewery in Chilliwack called Sidekick Brewing, and I seem to recall that we talked about them briefly at some point in the last few months because I think Locke saw it or I saw it. But essentially, it's a brand new brewery. It's got a fancy little thing, like a tasting room, but it just means that we have to go on the road again. We have to like chart out every single brewery in BC and put a line where we're gonna have to go. I mean that to me is just a given.
yes.
But and of course the now we haven't actually talked about any seasonal beers this year for the Halloween season. There are a few beers out there that, of course, are pumpkin spiced, flavory stuff, which I know that our Julian, friend of the show, would tell us that flavored beers are not real beer. But have you? I mean, I saw one beer the other day that was seasonal, but I didn't get any. But did you see any in your adventures today?
Well, I would consider these fresh hot beers, like the one I'm drinking tonight, to be a
Yeah.
seasonal. So I have seen a
Okay.
couple. So I've got this one. I've got another one from category 12,
Okay.
which I might do next week.
Excellent.
And then I have seen some pumpkin beers out there, which none of them really tickle my fancy, except for Crooked or Tooth from Phillips, which if I
Oh,
find, I'll
crooked or
get.
tooth? Of course. Of course. That's actually a good point. I'm going to make a note of that because that's
Not just
actually
Crooked
something we
Tooth,
should do.
Crookeder.
Crookeder tooth. Um,
Crooked Tooth is just their pumpkin ale, which is it's fine. Crookeder Tooth is a barrel aged version of that pumpkin ale, and that is
I am looking forward to that one. And this, of course, already has put me into the brain cycle of wonder where the beer advent calendars are going to be announced. Have they been
they're
announced?
usually announced
Is it
um,
November?
not until November. Usually early to mid November is when they're announced.
Okay, well then I guess I will just have to wait because I saw someone online on one of these news sites talk about the 12 beers of Christmas, which I'm not interested in. But we could try it, I guess. But again, I don't
We
know
can look at
when
things.
those are being
The
released.
Phillips one doesn't usually get announced until a little later in November. So,
Okay. Now,
and
we
that one was a
did
really good
talk
one
about
last year.
last year about making our own. Um, like you and I just putting something together that has stuff that we like. Now, of
Yeah.
course, I don't know if that
Well, what's nice
is
about these advent calendars is that they always contain something different that you can't get
exactly.
otherwise unless you buy that pack, and that's kind of the draw, I think. Anybody can go get a blue buck or a fat tug anytime.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying. um
I'm just
what I
looking to
was
see if
going to
anyone
say,
has
I was going to
announced
say something.
anywhere or if there's any suggestions for that, but I don't see any. I guess I'm just looking forward to it because I want to know. I need to know because I really, 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 really want to. I want to feel like we have a normal post, post COVID year.
Yeah.
Cheers from Nelson Island. Julian has shown up in the chat. Hello, sir. We
Now,
were talking about
something
flavored
else that
beers a
has
moment ago,
come
which I'm sure you will hate.
Something else that has come out recently is the 2022 version of the Herminator.
Really?
Yes, it
Really?
is. I think it came
Already?
out last week.
Let's see. Herminator 2022, Vancouver Island Brewing. Of course, we have to pick some up. This is just the rules. Um, so it is at 9.5%, 25 IBUs. And of course, if you are not familiar with the Herminator, let me share this little window with you. So this is the Herminator as it stands in 2022. And yeah, it's a beer that Alan and myself, Locke, pretty much everyone we know. I remember when getting it as a gift was kind of a cool idea. But then Vancouver Island Brewing went through some tough times, in regards to their existence. And we kind of stopped. It kind of fell out of our favor somehow. Um, I don't know. What do you remember why?
Well, the Herminator is considered to be BC's first seasonal beer. It was the only beer that was made um, in small batches and released for only part of the year. And I think it created a trend in the whole seasonal beer thing where now it's commonplace. But back in the early 90s, it was a brand new idea. You would get it was available in bomber bottles, which that was the only beer that was available in bomber bottles at the time. You usually got them in packs of, I think they came in packs of 12. You could buy a case of them, and you gave them out as gifts. Um,
I also remember
really,
doing that with Piper's Pale Ale, which was good at one time, and I don't know,
you know
haven't
what?
had one in years because
I don't think
it got
anything
bad.
happened with Vancouver Island Brewing that made their product bad. I think it was just there was so much more choice, so much more
Right.
selection, and all the Phillips, for instance, came along and just made product that blew Vancouver Island breweries out of the water.
True.
Except for the Herminator. The Herminator remains their best product by far. There is no competition. Vancouver Island Brewing has gone through an ownership change. They've remarketed themselves a couple of times. They've changed their logo a couple of times, but still, I think that their product it pales in comparison to some other breweries out there. Not to say that it's bad or anything. It's just some others do it just a little bit better. They also don't do the seasonal thing very well. Again, aside from the Herminator is fantastic. But anything else that they do that's seasonal is it's a little bit lackluster. Other breweries kind of go above and beyond, like Category 12. Category 12 went out and got what is it called? A feeder or foeder, which is a big, huge barrel aging thing. And they make these barrel aged beers that are really pushing boundaries. Shane, you and I had a couple of them this year, and they're just tremendous. They cost a little bit more, but you're willing to pay for it because you're getting so much of a better product. And until Vancouver Island Brewing embraces that kind of ingenuity, I guess you want to say, they're probably not going to be as celebrated as some of the other breweries out there. But having said that, But having said that, Piper's is still good. They don't make Herman's dark lager anymore. They do have a dark lager which they call Dominion. I don't know if it's exactly the same. And frankly, I don't know if Herman's dark lager would be, which is different from the Herminator, it would be as celebrated now as it was, 25 years ago or whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, the definitely the what am I trying to say? The time when Riot Brewing was in trouble. It was before COVID.
Yeah, it was probably about 3 years ago, I want to say.
So I remember being really concerned. A brewery that I've had their product, I think their labeling is amazing, but I don't see it that often over here, so I don't actually get to have it that often. So I couldn't tell you what their flavors are like right now. I couldn't tell you what their product is doing. But even then, I mean, I remember when we freaked out. Well, maybe freaked out is a bit strong, but we were really legitimately concerned that that Riot was going to go under, which thankfully I think has not happened. They're still
no, it hasn't.
But yeah, I mean this is the one.
But I mean that was a bit of a different case where Riot.
Well,
Brewing,
no, I'm just saying that there's
having
definitely
problems, not because of their product, but because they have been. We had a couple of very severe winter storms that hit their business, really hard, and that has an impact. And luckily, they were able to get out of it. So,
yeah, I'm just thinking of it as more of a from the perspective of breweries that we recognize, that we can think of, when we think of them, we're like, oh yeah, and we know what their artwork looks like, we know what their product is like generally, but I haven't thought of that about Vancouver Island Brewing. But I take your point that it's not really them, it's just that they didn't actually evolve over time. They kind of stayed where they were, and then all of these other breweries sort of kind of exploded since, say, 2010. And especially in the Vancouver area, and that hurt them. Even though they're on the island, it still hurt them because I don't know the last time I've seen a Vancouver Island Brewery product on any.
Let's put it this way: I would put Vancouver Island Brewing in the same category as, say, Granville Island Brewing.
Right.
They got maybe a little bit too big for their, for their own good, maybe.
Possible. I mean, it does happen. I mean, there's definitely some breweries that have come and gone, and they just, thought their product was so amazing, and then they ran up against, everybody else in the country that can, get beer to BC, and yeah, it becomes an issue. So, but Julian, of course, thinks we should just drink Lucky and be happy about it.
Well, so, I mean, Lucky was the original craft beer. I mean, it was brewed on Vancouver in Victoria. They had a brewery in I think it was Esquimalt. if you didn't want to have any of the national beers, if you wanted something that was local, that's what you drank.
I think I somehow managed to dodge Lucky Beer until more recent years. Because I don't remember ever having it. I was a Vancouver when I became of age and decided to drink responsibly. I definitely didn't have a wide palette. I knew what extra old stock was. I knew what Piper's was, and the first time I had beer outside of the house, you were there,
Yeah.
and I did we drink Canadian? Was that Canadian? I remember it being not great.
I think
And
it
it
was
was expensive.
Coronas. It was Coronas.
Was it Coronas? But I remember it just bored me and put me to sleep apparently, because I was bored. I wasn't a lightweight at all. But yeah, it definitely was memorable, but for other reasons. I guess I'm just being nostalgic about beer.
I think the reason why we chose to drink Coronas is because it came with a lime wedge in the top.
Oh,
And so it seemed like it was a little bit more of a highbrow beer, even though it really wasn't.
True.
It was lipstick on a pig.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the last, every time I've had a Corona, probably the bulk of the time has been actually when I was actually in Mexico. So Coronas are a thing down there, and let's give that to the tourists, and then
Now, okay. So having said that, on a hot day, if you're like out doing yard work or something like that, I mean, our cold Corona is the shit. It really is. Lime wedge no.
Yeah, I have not done lime wedges that often. It's mainly lemon, but that's I think just from convenience.
Well, whatever.
What's in the store. But
although
overall,
I've heard that the whole lime wedge thing was something that was started in Mexico to keep the flies out of the beer.
I wonder
that's
if
why they put in the lime wedge, to keep the flies from going. It's not supposed to be like add to the flavor or anything, or it has a completely practical use.
All right.
And for some reason, we just adopted it here.
For no reason other than, sure, it's fine.
It's to the point, if you go out and buy Coronas and take them home, you have to also get a lime and cut it up into wedges and put them in the top. Stupid. Exactly. Stupid.
It is kind of weird. Especially when you get those the buckets of Corona or the buckets of Canadian or the buckets of, which I don't see that often, but there are a couple places here in town where you do have that.
I think
primarily during the summer.
Yeah.
I don't think you get to keep. Well, I've never kept the bucket. But
no,
why not?
Well, you gotta have something.
Well, it's not like a branded bucket or anything. It's just like a, metal bucket, with a bunch of ice in it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So another bit of news that Shane, I don't know if you heard, but I would imagine you have. It's a Victoria thing. Capital Iron, which is a store in Victoria that's been around for 88 years, is closing. It's crazy.
I did hear that just yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
Which surprised me. I of all the places in the world, that would not be a place I would ever expect to go anywhere. But I guess part of it is family wanting to retire, that kind of stuff.
I think there's a lot of things at play.
Yeah.
I think not being able to find staff is one thing. Supply chain issues is another. Not being able to compete with the likes of Amazon and other online retailers is another. The area all around Capital Iron in the harbor is being redeveloped. So there's going to be a ton of construction down there, which is going to limit people's ability to come to the store. Their parking lot is being torn up to build a building, so they're not going to be able to offer any parking. So I think all that is kind of like saying, okay, the gods are saying it's time to close up.
Well, exactly. I mean, the fact that they've renovated so many of those buildings already in that general vicinity, but I do think it's unfortunate. But at the same time, I don't know if your store's been around since forever.
It's such a great place to go. I mean, the
That's
building
true.
has to stay. It's a heritage building, so that won't be going anywhere. But it's just walking around at Capital Iron, you always find something new and interesting, and you know, especially at Christmas time, it's always a great place to go.
Oh, it totally is, because they have or had. When are they actually closing? When is their final?
I think
date?
it's December 17th.
Well, I don't know if I'll be able to get to see it one last time before it goes, but if I get a chance, I'm definitely gonna go. Which reminds me, completely as an aside, less than 2 weeks until Pink Floyd, Nick Mason. So just making sure you don't forget.
I'm looking forward to it.
I had to remind my dad yesterday. Yes, Dad. 2 weeks. Like, it's not next Tuesday; it's the following Tuesday. So you have to be here. But yeah, it's gonna be good. I'm gonna enjoy it. But it kind of like I'm kind of excited about it.
I'm very excited about it. It's been a long time. So we were supposed to go to this last February, and then the show got postponed because of COVID. And then I got
like February
rescheduled to this coming up, or November 1st, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking, oh, please.
And it changed venues as well.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be, actually, I've totally forgotten where it was supposed to be. But now it's going to be at the center downtown.
I think it was supposed to be the Queen E.
I can't remember where it was supposed to be before.
It doesn't matter anyway.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. But anyway, it's going to be at the center, which is the same place that we saw Unwigged, whatever that was, the Spinal
Tap.
Which is something that we should try again, hopefully, because Spinal Tap is coming out with another movie next year.
Hopefully they'll tour. If they tour, we're going.
Kind of what I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to, because I think aren't most of them like late 70s, early 80s, something like that.
And that's going to be part of the shtick, right? They're probably going to have walkers and like an IV pole, and somebody's going to break a hip.
Until suddenly the hopefully non-exploding drummer starts going. But yeah, we'll have to go. I'm kind of excited about this whole emergence of from under the cover of COVID, where you can actually go places. Like, I've been to several events over the past few weeks. Took my parents out to the night market and things like that, and it was packed. But didn't feel unwell. No one in the news was talking about it.
Well, let's hope that neither of us actually get COVID between now and then.
Well, I get my 4th shot Friday evening, so
I get my 4th shot on Saturday.
Nice. So we will be back. Like, my parents just got their more recent thing a little while ago. So yeah.
Now, but let's be clear: getting the shot doesn't mean you can't get it. I mean, you can still get it. Of
course it does. Don't. Are you a Fauci lover? I mean, oh my god, man! Like, you're like, do you have like a tracking chip in your bum? I mean, are you gonna go to like all of the sex parties that the Microsoft overlords are gonna be running?
What?
Or no? So Bill Gates. Well, the whole thing where you're gonna grow a tracking device, and your genetics are going to turn you into a lizard, and Bill Gates would invite you to sex parties. That's what I remember. But early days of corona. what was in this beer? It's only
COVID.
3%. I got Corona on the brain. Julian, by the way, has been talking in the chat here. I had no idea that Corona hired Germans to make proper beer. So there you go. A trivia for the day. Anything else? Any other thoughts in your brain?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just the two of us, so maybe we'll wrap it up.
Well, let's wrap it up. So thank you all for watching. We'll be back next week, and hopefully more people will be here to entertain us all. But this week's beer has been the how do you pronounce it?
Sartori Harvest IPA from Driftwood Brewing in Victoria, BC.
And I, of course, had Steamworks Brewing's Halo Hazy IPA, which is a light IPA, which, Julian, I'm sure you would hate. But until next week, where I already know what beer I'm having, so you can find out next week. And hopefully Locke will have the same thing if Locke is able to show up. And hopefully Dave will be back. I don't know. Dave is lost in the woods again. But thank you all. Don't forget, all of our social media stuff is down below. Chat at us, throw eggs at us or something. But until next week,
sponsors.
Yes, we definitely need sponsors. So because otherwise our swearing is going to get us banned. I mean, what
yeah. Dave will get naked for sponsors. He's told us this.
He has. He has totally planned everything. A dance routine, the whole shebang. So if you want to sponsor the show, you get Dave. On that note, good night, everybody. Thank you for watching. Bye!